All right, Kayla, let's just jump into these questions, shall we? All right, all right.
We shall.
Okay. How do you suffer from anxiety?
Um, Many ways. Many ways. And it's funny because before I really even knew what it was, I just knew it was a problem. So it's in the sense that I will have really crazy, like, it's like my chest gets really tight and freaking, like, if I have to go out, it's like going to the grocery store, I get anxiety. Going into really public spaces like the gym, I get anxiety. Having to have a hard conversation, I get anxiety. Uh, People asking me things in like an indirect way, I get anxiety. So it's pretty much like if you can hear that this the pattern, it's gonna keep going. Like there, many things give me anxiety, and I think that's pretty much that for like how I suffer from it. I think I suffer from it in every way possible.
There's no one direct deposit. It's just like, any way you think I can, I will.
I will interject in your life and fuck your shit up. Like, let's
Yeah.
go.
It just sits on your shoulder and it's like, oh, you think
Oh,
you're okay right now? But why?
yeah, but why? Why are you
But
okay?
why? But why?
I want to reference. I don't know if you've seen it, Brandy, but there's a show out there. It's not for everyone, so please don't everyone just take this and go and watch this if it's gonna might bother you because it's really what's the word? Provocative. It's this
Yeah.
show called Big Mouth, and they have a whole segment. I think there's like a few episodes where the kids are in like high school, they've gone through puberty, like girls are just getting their periods, and then they start talking about the anxiety mosquito. And it's just
Mm.
this little thing that sits on your shoulder basically, and just like with its whiny little voice, like, oh, you're okay, but what's happening? What about this? What about that? You could what if everything goes wrong? Like it just goes off, and I'm like, I've never related to a cartoon so much in my life ever. I'm
I've
like,
actually watched that a few times when I've been
okay.
pet too. I did laugh at it quite a few times. I'm terrible at watching new shows, so I didn't go back, but it was relatable, especially at that time. So it's funny, and it's true. It is, and it's a little mosquito that buzzes around that never dies and continually makes you question everything.
Yeah, you question everything, and it's like, why do we have to be like that? And I think for me, it's a hypervigilance that was kind of pretty much created, and yeah, it's a thing. Like I'm learning now to kind of like let that go, but we'll kind of dive into that as we go in.
Of course. Yeah. So how does all this make you feel?
It stresses me out, man. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna lie.
exhausting.
I'm not gonna lie. I have it like and it's so funny, but like we'll be recording and we talk all the time and everything's good. But when it comes to like getting started doing like things even like this episode, I have a brief like hint of anxiety. I feel it in my chest. I'm like, okay, you
Yep.
got this. You got this. You're good.
Yep.
Brandy's got you. Like we're
We
good.
got it.
We're good.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And
So
it
yeah,
just, and it's knowing that it's there and knowing that it's essentially, unfortunately, probably not going to go away no matter how much we wish it away.
yeah,
And just having those moments and those wins and repeating the positives and reinforcing that in those moments, right? So,
100%.
right. So that leads us to our next one. Then, when obviously anxiety can get to a certain level, you suffer deeper and deeper. Have you got to that level of suffering from panic attacks?
I do believe when I was younger, that was a really more prevalent thing. I think it was more common when I would be fighting. Like
Mm-hmm.
we'd have competition and I'd be on the mats with somebody. And it was like, if I don't know, so tie in the social anxiety. I'm in a massive crowd of people and
Mm-hmm.
all eyes are on me. And it's like, we got 3 minutes on the timer and we have to fight and one of us has to win. And I'm looking back at it now, I'm like, I thought I loved it, but like thinking about that gives me like, I want to throw up thinking about it because it stressed me out. Like it stressed me. So I remember one time I legit like I lost and I actually shouldn't have lost. Like I was a good fighter. I just had crazy anxiety and it was like
Yep.
crippling. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember having a full on like a hyperventilate panic attack.
Oh, yes.
And my mom like freaking like she was just this champ. She just ran out like on the mats, no fucks. Debbie was on her knees and she's like, look at me. And like focusing, like to redirect the focus. And she's like, breathe, you know, she just sat, and that's how she always was. So I remember there was a couple times in my childhood where that happened, and she was like fucking on her shit all the time with that. So she was a real MVP in that whole game.
We stand Debbie. We stand Debbie.
Right?
We love. That's amazing. And I love that she was able to recognize that and be there for you.
She just knew.
And that's such an important thing, because some people, especially if they don't suffer with it, they don't know.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it's so crazy. Like we were just talking before we got on here about in our pregame. Just so you guys know, this is like a little, I don't know if other people do this in their podcast, but we kind of pregame, so we gotta get talking. So, you know, I think it relates actually to our anxiety, because that kind of helps make you kind of forget that you're actually
that what we're doing
podcast.
Yeah,
we're just talking. So, you know, it's really nice for us to kind of talk a little bit before, and then kind of let that anxiety part go through. That's a tool that I'd say that we probably use. So anybody that comes on the show, that's a good one for you to kind of hold in place, is that, you know, if you want to, we'll have a little bit of talk first and then start recording, so that you feel a little bit more, you know, at ease.
Yeah, it helps me for sure.
Yeah. And I think the greatest thing is, like we were talking about, is that there's different forms of anxiety, and it comes at different times of your life. Like there's just generalized one. Most people worry, for sure, but then we take it to next level degrees of different things. So like,
right.
You know, like you said, you have the sports anxiety, you know, that's a performance one, because it's you're there to perform, you know. But if you were in, you know, say doing the exact same thing in practice, it wouldn't be as stressful.
Oh, I slayed bitches in practice. Like that's how that's how it was. Like that, it was so fucked up. Like
yeah, no, it's totally fair. And we talk about that, like when it comes to tests too. We've talked about that, where it's like, you know, you're so fucking smart, but then that anxiety gets in the way, and you're just like, I don't remember anything, and people are even asking you questions. Like, and that's what I hated the most about school, when they would just ask you questions
on the spot.
Yes, and you knew the answer. Like I was straight A student, and sometimes I just got so nervous speaking in front of everyone. I was worried that I'd say the wrong thing, or someone would think I was too smart, or I'd be made fun of. And I just like thinking of all those things, and then all of a sudden I couldn't speak.
Yeah, no, same girl, same. Like public speaking, just bullshit.
Yeah, and then I think you just have to like push yourself to. I think that's what we've learned, is that, and we'll get into like tools, but you just have to essentially fucking do it, because it's going to be there anyways.
Oh yeah, like do the shit you're afraid of. Don't, you know, like that's something that I've learned really once I identified what was, you know, happening, and I had like a name for what was I was experiencing, because like I didn't really get fully diagnosed until I was like, this was in 2017, so I'm 27. Am I 26? 27. I don't know, somewhere in there. But I'm late in life. Like late, to me, that's late in life. That's a long time to be feeling all fucked up and have no idea. And then, you know, you go reach out to you get a therapist, and that's kind of how it all started. And once I figured out, like, okay, yeah, I've been living with this, and this is how I've been coping. No wonder my life's a fucking mess. Like, oh my God.
I see that train where that's going.
Oh,
just kidding.
Frick.
No, I totally agree. And I think, had you known, like you do now, in those moments on the mat, that performance anxiety meant that you were passionate, that you were wanting to get that.
I wanted to do good. I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to succeed, but
yes, but it's okay if you didn't, which is that one part that you didn't know. So you didn't know how to identify what that was. And then you didn't know that it would be okay, and that you wouldn't be a failure, because your anxiety was telling you you're going to be a failure if you don't win. Had you had those couple of things, you would have used that fuel to fuck shit up even more.
I would
and that's,
been able to manage.
The reason to talk about
it. Totally. Like totally. I would have been able to manage. And it's like so funny. And it doesn't help, Brandy, that I was like so fucking competitive. Like I still am.
I mean, that's on you.
And it's like ego, right? But it's so funny, because like I had just so many things happening. It's like I want to succeed. I want to be awesome, but my brain's telling me I can't. But I know I am, and you know what I mean. Like it just like almost like we might find out that maybe I have more than one personality. I don't know.
You never know. I don't think so.
I don't think
but
so either.
I think it's just people that have more complex lives and have dealt with more things, just in the sense, when you talk about multiple personalities, is because you're something traumatic has happened, and they recreate something new. There's way more to that. I'm not
totally.
I follow a lot of girls on YouTube. Like if anybody wants to know more about it, I've really dug deep into that kind of thing, because I find it super interesting what your brain does. But
how you
in
do
the
it.
same sense, and how you do it. But all of us have that moment where our brains are going to protect us. And that's where all these like brain patterns and redirection come from, and why it's so important to identify them and reverse them. I think, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes only, I'm not a doctor. But I think that's why it's super important, because people that do have it's, I guess they're not called multiple personality. It's, oh, I feel so ignorant. I'll look it up, but they do call it something else right now. I was looking into it a while ago.
Oh,
But
right.
basically your brain shatters, and not shatters, but it goes into another piece and it recreates
A different
kind of another
scenario.
identity. Yeah. Body identity disorder. I'm sorry, this is gonna be terrible. If you have it, I'm really sorry. I'll look more into it. But basically, yeah. So it's like your brain protects you, and I think that happens to us also on a lower level, where
Hmm.
when it comes to anxiety, it's like you've been in the situation, so your body immediately goes to that survival
Fight or
mode,
flight, baby.
fight or flight, and then when you're just used to that, you just continually live in that, and then that's how you're running your life. So everything you're doing is out of reaction and not stop, think, and like react properly.
Right.
It's just like immediate reaction, and
Exactly.
it makes us so angsty. So it's like when you said that you were like angry and always wanted to fight and all that, I just think you just didn't have a
Yeah, I
channel
didn't know how
and
to
an
let it
identifier.
flow and release it.
Yes.
So now, yeah.
And if you're like, oh, this is what makes me anxious, I see that. Okay, when I'm performing, I'm going to fuel that angst into my performance instead of being crippled by it. Like, I think those would have been key things. And what I'm excited for us to bring out and talk about more for other people, to maybe have that aha moment when they're in that, like, to just be like, whoa, what did the girl say worked for them? Stop, breathe, think about
Yep.
it,
Oh,
whatever we talk
totally.
about shorter on here,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's the hope, because we know how important that's been to us in our healing process. And so that leads to the next question. At what age did you realize this was an issue for you?
Um, I think I've been a worrier my entire life. So yeah, super young. Just and like I think we touched on it in the last episode. I know I did talk about adoption and stuff, and pre-adoption was not really a lot, but pre-adoption has a lot to do with why I formed such crazy brain patterns at 3.5. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it was the environment that I was in, and it was unstable and very uncertain, and so that for a child, I know a lot of people out there, if you've experienced any kind of crazy shit in your childhood, which I'm sure most of us have, you have an understanding as well what your childhood was like and how it affected you as an adult. Like if people have gone and done the work, like there's shit that happened in your past that affected the way that your brain works. And that's like with anxiety and depression, we'll talk about it too. It literally changes the way that your brain waves connect. So it
Yes.
just, it alters you. And, you know, if there is no healthy support or proper like coping mechanisms installed, then you're running on autopilot, on fight or flight. Like, every little thing, like Brandy said, it comes up when something is reminding you of a situation that you were in. So, you get social anxiety. You get whatever. I don't know why the social anxiety happens. You just have a fear of people watching or failing in front of people, or people making comments about you. And it's like, well, why are you worried about that? Like, I've had that conversation with myself. Why are you worried about that? Why are you worried about what
Yeah.
that fucking person thinks? Like, that person doesn't pay your damn bills. Like, why are you worried about it?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's just, it's taken a lot of work, but I think I was super young, and I didn't know, I didn't have a name for it, guys. Like, I didn't know. I thought I'm just fucking broken. Like, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like, I am so different from everyone else. Everyone's so normal. But that's also judging based on my own like insecurity as well, like feeling inadequate. So I judge other people because I don't want the spotlight on me. It's projecting. So it's very interesting. I was young. I'll just I'll leave it
Yeah.
there.
No, for sure. And and then it just kind of snowballs, if you will, because of course you didn't know that. And
I
then,
didn't know how to control
and
it.
it's nice. No, and it's so nice, and I feel so grateful now. Like, and my mom always says to me, like, I'm sorry I didn't realize that this was a problem I had early on in life, so I could let you know. And then I passed down some things. And I'm thanking her, thinking, thanks for teaching me so I can learn, later in my 20s, now, especially in my 30s, where you're, end of 40s, beginning of 50s, starting to realize that, like, you gave me another 15, 20 years of this
Mm-hmm.
awareness that you didn't get to have. And isn't that the point of parenting?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, the best that you can with the knowledge that you have. And when you do better, you
Teach.
teach your kids better, and you all learn together. Like, that we have to shift this paradigm that parents know everything and they're the be all end all, and that they can't make mistakes. That's how we all learn, is how we make fucking mistakes. So let's be, obviously there's bad ones. Like, come on, there's got to be boundaries. I'm not saying everything, but at the same sense, like, if their heart's pure and they're in it and they're trying and they've had things that they didn't know, that their parents didn't know, that they didn't know, and it got passed down generationally, and it's usually
Oh
environmental
yeah.
too, and not knowing that, okay, all this bad food makes your anxiety worse because you're not sleeping properly, your body's not being fueled. It's an actual response out of your gut.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
where
Yes.
your feelings live. That's why they call it a gut feeling. It's your second brain, it's your intuition, it's everything in there. It's your anxiety. That's why people, I find when I meet most empaths and intuitive people, they're very anxious people because they're just more hyper aware, right?
Super
So
sensitive.
super sensitive,
That doesn't help.
which perfectly, I love when our conversations just lead to the next question. So what do you feel triggers your anxiety the most?
So it's, yeah, you touched in a bit there. Definitely didn't know before, but not respecting my body, not treating my body with respect and feeding it proper nutrients and giving it enough water. I started to notice, like, I had a habit for, I like chips and I also like candy. And if I'm, sometimes it's together, sometimes it's one or the other. But when I'm eating the candy, I'm eating a lot of it, to the point where it's like you've had enough sugar to just like skyrocket any anxiety. And that's usually what happens. So I stopped doing that kind of shit. Like, I really started to look at my diet. And the funny thing is I didn't start doing these things right away for anxiety. At first it was the sugar, I just cut it out for my diet. And also I was trying to change the way that my PMS, like my premenstrual symptoms, that I was trying to change that, because I noticed
For sure.
a big correlation to like what I was eating and how it was affecting me on my period. And so it kind of started there, but once it happened there, I started realizing it rippling into my life, in the sense that I used to drink probably 3 to 4, if not 5 coffees a day. And I would I'd be vaping too. Like, let's talk about that. I'd be fucking vaping.
Yep.
So I've had one coffee that has however much caffeine plus the sugar and crap that I put in it. Then I vape. Then I'd have another coffee. Then I'd vape. Those things alone would like massively, massively skyrocket my anxiety. And I had.
And how much were you eating?
Not a lot. What?
Because it was suppressing your hunger.
Way less. So yeah, exactly. And so then you start to notice the train, and like one of the big things that it's just like, so not too much caffeine triggers the anxiety, not a good diet triggers my anxiety. And then so those are natural things. Then let's talk about public situations triggers the F out of my anxiety. Confrontation. Super, super, super huge one for me. Confrontation triggers the shit out of me, because I shut off. I shut right off. I go into this, like, I go back down to being a tiny person that didn't have a say in what happened, and something shitty happened. And I freeze. I freeze. Like I can feel it in my hands now, like the rigor mortis. You're just like, ugh, that feeling but I've gotten better, and I've learned that, okay, you're not going to die. We don't need to get to this point. We're not going to push ourselves into a panic attack here. Like I've actually become my own like cheerleader. I'm my own person. I become my own person in a big way, because I recognize my trigger when it comes, and then I talk myself through it.
Totally. Yeah. You have to be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah. That's how that everything triggers my anxiety.
Your triggers. And then, so then when all those triggers go off, how does this affect your life? Like, how does anxiety
bollocks
affected your life the most? I mean, let's remember we're in a certain amount of time.
No, totally.
Guys, we all know anxiety is not a a small topic. We just want to open the conversations to being like, this is some of the struggles because it's bigger than this.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
in your in your ways, how would you say?
Ooh, bollocks. Okay, so never mind that bollocks thing. I just got to say it one more time. It affects my life. Okay, so this one is actually interesting, and I've started. Okay, so if you guys have anxiety, I just want you to like maybe try one thing. Start writing shit down. So I started kind of keeping. For me, I keep a mental log. My brain is so different from like I remember things in such a way. So I started keeping a mental track of the way that my anxiety when it happens and what I do after. So generally if say I haven't eaten yet, my anxiety shows up in a way that I become highly agitated. And it's funny because people will talk about that being hangry, and I'm like, is it really though, or is it something else? Because for me, I'm actually experiencing anxiety, and it is because I haven't had enough nutrients to fuel my body. So my body's screaming, going, fucking feed me. And, it becomes overwhelming, and you kind of go into a tornado of it. And then that shows up in the way that I react and I treat my partner or my son. Like, when not directly at him, I don't want people to be like, oh, this woman's a bitch to her kid. Like, that's not what we're talking about. Everyone has their moments and no one's perfect. So let's not fucking mom shame me here. But
No,
I do. I see it come up in that. And I've stopped. What happens now is I notice it. And sometimes if I don't catch it before, I already have like a spewing out of my mouth moment, like word vomit. If I don't catch it before, I'll catch it after, and I'll immediately address it. And I'll look at my boyfriend and I'll be like, look, hey, this is me kind of being out of line a little bit. I am hungry, and that does not excuse my behavior. I just need to get through this anxiety. So I verbalize it, and I'll apologize to my son. Okay, I'm a little anxious right now. I just need to work through this, and I apologize for how I'm acting. I want you to know that I'm not angry. I'm not frustrated with you. It's simply just mom's feeling a lot overwhelmed. So I make sure I verbalize it, I address it, and then everyone moves on. And that helps me because I'm just like, I'm verbalizing it. So I'm not alone in my head going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, my anxiety.
Yeah. And then it just takes you down a different path.
So
too.
it affects my life in that. And and same, I don't really go out of the house much, and I don't really have a big social life now. Thanks, pandemic. But anyways,
yeah,
I freaking
now everyone knows what we feel like on a daily basis to learn how to get back to normal
like
life.
We're just learning too. We're learning how to fly here as well. Fuck.
We are. That's totally. So what are some of the most anxious moments that you'd hold on to the most? Because we all know as anxious people that there's just moments that you're like, I'm never going to forget that for the rest of my life. What were ones that you held on to most to now, let's say?
When I think about it as a child, there's none specific that are as monumentous. No, not really.
Oh, good.
For me, mine,
maybe
no. And that's like, I do like, there was probably a lot there, but I'm just kind of like, let it go. The thing that makes me the most anxious now is driving. I was in an accident freaking in August, and we talked about this prior, and this is funny because we were like, how have we never talked about this? But this is this one, when I have to go through the intersection that I was in when I rolled my car. It wasn't my fault, by the way. I was just wrong place, wrong time, and shit happens. So yeah, every time I have to go through that intersection, and guess what? The best part about where that intersection is, it is 3 minutes from my house. So literally on my way home, leaving home, I can't get no peace or any kind of satisfaction from drive. I just get the craziest anxiety. And if somebody is coming from the same direction that I got hit from, I legitimately will shut my eyes. I will fucking shut my eyes. It's just like,
I feel the same. And that's crazy because me and my mom and my brother's really bad one was literally about 10 feet outside of our house.
Why does that happen?
It's always close to home.
Why? Because home is
I don't
safe?
know. They always say it's close to home.
Fuck.
Yes, and you're closer to home, so it's safe, so your senses relax, so you're not as on high alert. Apparently,
actually, that makes sense.
For entertainment.
That makes sense. Entertainment purposes
right?
only.
So Yeah, well, you just never know. I'm just saying from my experience. Yeah, I feel you on the driving one, and I'm not excited, but I'm happy that we connect again on another way that we can have another episode just strictly about the PTSD about driving, because I'm sure a lot of people in big or small accidents will probably feel the same. So let's, yeah, definitely bring some people on that were in, maybe similar or way worse situations than us. I know I'm very lucky to be alive from a lot of mine, but the aftermath, big or small, even if it's a bumper one, that's a big deal. And I really want to talk about that because I'm learning how to successfully get over that, but I'm still really struggling. So that would be a great one
Awesome.
to have
Yeah, for
people
sure.
on
Like
for that.
let's talk about it. How has getting in an accident
Yeah.
affected your life for
Yeah,
real?
because it really has. Yeah, totally. So I know I think I know the answer to this question, but I still think it's really important that we ask these questions still. But is your anxiety something you feel you face alone, or do you have people in your life to talk to about it?
From my entire life up until I moved to the island, completely alone, completely in the dark. No fucking idea. Nobody talked about it. No one wanted to talk about it. Everyone wanted to just go about their lives, acting like nothing was wrong and like everything was going to be fine. Like if we just kept telling ourselves everything will be fine, then it was just going to magically be fine. But you know what, guys? It's not. It's not. Unless you unpack it fucking and put it all away, it's not fine. So you've got to deal with it. You got to deal with your anxiety like head on, like 100%. And now
Totally.
moving forward to the island, my life opened up in such a different way when I moved here that I was learning how to talk to people and learning how to create sustainable relationships with people. And it was rocky in the beginning, and I had long way to go, but I've come to a place now, like since meeting Brandy and I have literally, we have, I don't know, we've talked each other through some stuff. And it's like, when you have a
Yeah,
person
totally.
that you can talk to, that you can add to your repertoire of, I'm going to call it like your army of helpers, essentially. Because that's how I see
Hmm.
it, like
Yeah.
who do I talk to today about what is going on? And, who's going to come to me today with what's going on for them, that kind of thing. And it's
Mhm.
nice. And so you kind of have this little community. And so I have more and more friends now that are coming out and saying like, yeah, I've had anxiety, or I've had this, or I've had that. And it's like, fuck yeah. Like, why don't we talk about this? Why we never talked about it? And then that opens up a new avenue for, I don't know, like if you level up in your friendship. It's weird. It's like being an adult and having friends is super
Oh,
cool.
it's and well, and that it's kind of like when you look at having a relationship with, say, like a guy, you start dating and then you get more like intimate as times and you connect more and then, you move in together and then, you get married, whatever the next steps are. And your relationships deepens and deepens because you open up
Oh
more and
yes.
you're more vulnerable and you
Oh
connect
yeah.
deeper, right? So it's kind of like a mini relationship with your friends where you're like, oh, wow, I'm safe to be this person. I'm
Have these
safe
thoughts
to
and feelings.
have those
Totally.
moments. Yeah, exactly. And then like how many times between the two of us where it's like, I know you're going to tell me in a safe way where I don't feel like I'm crazy. Like, no, man, that's
Yep.
just your anxiety. That's not how it is. And it's nice just to have that where someone just immediately like, you're crazy, but not like delivering it in a way that
Feeding
it's like
into it.
super safe for me to go on those, yeah,
Yeah.
deep ends. Right. And I think that, again, brings us, so I, going over stuff because me and you are always learning and growing. So listening to our last couple of podcasts and we talk about heavy stuff and stuff that, a lot of people find heavy, but I think what we love is that we're trying to bring all aspects. So I like how this was set up to the fact that like, let's talk about the heavy stuff and then let's flip it over to the
Totally. Yeah.
successes
No.
of what you're going through, whether we're told like, not, obviously we're not all healed and we're not saying that, we all still have far in our journey, but I want to talk about the hard stuff. And it was nice in the last interview, Kirsten was like, I love people that are super real, and I think that's what me and you do. It's like, and again, to Lexi too, that's how our mantra is. It's like, life isn't going to be perfect. It's going to be shitty, but we're going to get through the shitty stuff. It's okay. You're validated. That's cool. Don't drag too long on it. Let's get back and have the most positive outlook that we can about it. Right. So I think that kind of just like all rolls into what we're doing. And I like how that's flowing, where it's like, let's talk about the hard stuff and be honest with it, but let's talk about how that impacted us in a positive way and what we can pull out of this so that we're
Oh,
not
for
falling back
sure.
into
No,
these
and I
holes.
love that so much. I actually really love that we can lean on each other. And I've noticed a lot of ways where I'm able to help more people than I could have even imagined. Like, and it's really rewarding to be in a position now where, I have created a support system for myself, and now I'm becoming a better support system for other people. And it's just like the ripple effect, and it's magical to watch. And I have to say too, like my boyfriend, not only am I having super awesome connections with friends now, but my boyfriend's incredible. Like I can talk to him anytime about my anxiety. If I'm feeling freaked out about something, like he's 100% like always there. And he understands, and we've gotten to a place where it's not like, it doesn't need to turn into a fight. It's just addressing what it is, and like, not hyper focusing on something else. Just saying, I'm a little anxious right now and I just need to work through it. And I needed someone to know. And then, it just continues to get better and better and better. So having friendships with people and then also having a supportive partner is like crazy, crazy different.
Oh, totally. Totally. So in your successes, what have you used or do you use that you find successful for
In the
anxiety?
beginning, I think I was taking medication, and I think the medication was both like a antidepressant, which doubled as a helps me not be so anxious because it did curb my anxiety quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um, that was not
Hmm.
my favorite. I also like to smoke weed, but sometimes that does give me anxiety, which is I find that
Hmm.
interesting. Like I'm fascinated by that. Like what about it does that, like why does that happen? But anyways, and then right, we'll
That'll
get
be
in
a
there.
whole episode. We'll bring I know some people that could probably come in and answer some of these questions that might be a little bit more in the scientific realm of how cannabis
Yes,
works, which
I
I
would
would
love
love
to
to
talk
do
about
because
that.
most people we've had, yeah, we can bring some people on that I know in the I might be in the right
Shed some
industry
light.
to bring some people on to answer that. Yeah, but in light too, I agree. It's a wild ride with cannabis, and it's just like any substance. If you abuse it right,
Oh,
it could be
totally.
bad for you. And I think as we open up the science, we're going to start to find that each plant has its own
Psychoaffect
kind of
or
genetics, and
affective.
that'll play depending
Yep.
exactly on your genetics. So it's really a personal unique feeling, and I'm really excited to open up the science to nail that down to help people so that it's like without a doubt that'll be the thing that helps them with anxiety, not like once in a while it's going
Yeah,
to
no,
give
and
those
this
moments of
it
oh
like
fuck,
ties right into our next question, which is
right?
awesome.
Yes. Yeah. So, what are the things that you found that have helped then, other than the medication helping? As I know, me and you both agree, for us, it was kind of like for a
Yeah, oh
time, not
no, that
for
was for
forever.
sure timed. That was I did it because at the time, yeah, it doesn't matter for that, but basically it did what I needed it to do. And then I realized in my own time, in my own mind, that I didn't like the way it numbed me out. And I would still, so let's say someone would, talk to me in a derogatory way or be rude or condescending, I would just let it go. And I don't think that's human. I find
Hmm.
that very robotic. So I mean, it is what it is, and there are some people who
Totally.
100% they do need it, and it really works well for them, and that is awesome. So like I'm not knocking it. It's just like it wasn't for me. So when I came off my medication, honestly, vitamin B, vitamin B, and
Hmm. Hmm.
magnesium. I also have like a CBD tincture that I drink. It literally with all the things in it, like
Hmm.
the tincture that I have has got CBD, vitamin B12, magnesium, and a few other things. And these are things that are actually super, super important to women. And they talk about there's some pages, we'll
Oh,
bring
for
this
sure.
up later on in our women's portion of the health stuff, how like
Yes.
supplements are crucial to having a healthy flow and no issues um
Mhm.
so yeah, for tools finding useful, it would be supplements, proper nutrition, drink water, I get enough sleep, um I try not to fill my head with too much garbage. um I
Yeah, of
practice
course.
my like it's I almost, and it's funny because I'm in school for this, but it's funny, like cognitive behavior therapy. Like I stop myself when I'm in a thought process, and I reshape it, and I go a different direction. I don't keep going down that same path and make myself upset and give myself worse anxiety because I'm dishonoring my own self. Like it's very crazy. Like you got to treat your body,
Totally.
love
Yeah, I
it,
get
treat it good, love it, treat it with respect, feed it well, get it proper sleep, like many, many, many things. And like it's possible, it's easy, like it's easy to do. You just got to pick one thing and pick at it until you're at down the list and you have all your things and you're hitting all your marks. It's a thing that's attainable. And I would say, like, if you can do it naturally, people, and it works, do it, because I don't know. I find it's just, I don't know. I like knowing that I'm in control.
100%. And so it's basically your most useful parts is when you have your basics and your foundation at a healthy level. You're not overstrained, you're not under eating, or overeating the wrong things. You're not, staying up all night and getting up first thing in the morning. You're getting good sleep, you're having healthy relationships, like all the things that fundamentally set your body up for success inadvertently help your
Yeah,
brain
and
be more
like
set
it's
up for
funny if you
success.
because as have percept. Oh my goodness, just word fumble. But as another person who has struggled with anxiety, have you ever had those thoughts where you see a person that looks super confident and you're just like, fuck, I wish I had
Mhm.
that. And it's so funny because it's like we actually do. We just didn't have the proper foundation to be in that vibration of our lives. So that's what we're doing is we're building back the
Well, yeah,
foundation from the beginning. We're going from the bottom up. We're starting with our everything that it will be the base, and we're building it strong so that when we get up the like ladder more and more and more. I'm essentially envisioning a pyramid, and I don't know why. You guys should see me. I got my arms in like a triangle. I'm doing this weird thing, but I'm envisioning it right now, and it's like that's how you do it. Like pyramids have been here for how friggin' long? They have like look at the base of these structure of these
yeah,
things. Like it's crazy. So yeah, you gotta take care of everything from the bottom up. Like if you don't water the roots, the tree won't grow. So you gotta really, really take care of yourself that way.
totally, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And then so those are amazing tips, and the same thing we know. We'll get into mine how much I agree with CBD and all that kind of stuff, and making sure like our bodies and the reactions, like that's what I love about certain influencers and like bringing light to this. It's like our body's reacting to something, so instead of covering it up, let's find the root problem and find that root problem and see if our body
Gotcha.
continually reacts that way, right? So if you're not eating properly, sleeping properly, doing the things that make you feel good, and then yeah, of course there's going to be more chance for slip ups in that mental space, and outside of all those amazing things that you do, which I'm 100% in agreements with, are there any influencers in your life? I know we talk about online, but in your life or online that help you continually progress in your
So yeah, I
anxiety
was
journey?
doing therapy. I've kind of taken a step back from that and taken my own direction with it. So I've kind of, I've banded out and I'm standing more on my own 2 feet, but also still reaching out. There is quite a bit of people that I just talk to personally. It's always my boyfriend, and then
Mhm.
there's you. I'll talk to Hillary. Like I can pretty much talk to anybody about my anxiety. So in my circle of friends, and then I do have actually a couple that I've been following, and I actually send people quotes for like pieces from them, and these are a few pages that I follow where I'm just like, it really helps. I'm not saying you need to go on Instagram and try and self self-diagnose yourself. Like do get out and speak to someone, talk to a doctor, talk to a therapist. Like
Of
don't
course.
just go and read something and resonate with you. Do take the extra steps to go and figure it out for sure, for sure. But these pages, I'm just like, wow, they're why couldn't that have been around when I was going through what I was going through? Like it all makes sense now. And one of the ones that I follow that's super crazy is the holistic psychologist. She's on Instagram.
Yes.
Another one's the Real Depression Project. Now, depression and anxiety, like they literally, I feel like those two things are like, you know, they just go hand in hand. They're two peas in a pod. You generally don't have one without
Definitely.
the other. I find that most people who have anxiety do have also depression tendencies as well, or people who have depression will also have anxiety because these are things that are upsetting the way that your brain works. So they go hand in hand.
Mhm. Yeah,
All of them.
all of them.
Yeah, they're
So
all
nice
holding
little
hands.
hand line there. No, that's awesome. I definitely follow the
Oh,
holistic
yes.
gal
Awesome.
too.
I
She's
love when
amazing. Yeah, yeah. We'll make
yes,
sure
we
we tag
will.
all those
Oh,
in
yeah,
there.
that's awesome.
We'll share because that always sharing is caring. So if you could go back now with everything that you've learned, because I know you've come so far, especially from that little 3-year-old, if you could go back and tell her anything about your anxiety, what would
Listen
you
to
tell her?
your mother.
Damn it.
Oh
It's
my
always
gosh,
the
I'm
answer,
just
isn't
about
it?
choked all over the place like cat hairball. No, it would totally be listen to your mother because when I think back to all the fucking crazy moments in my childhood or my crazy moments in any time, the first person that I want to talk to is always Debbie. It's like, oh, I gotta call my mom. And then so I
Yeah,
really,
oh, for
you
sure.
know, and I call her a lot now, and I'm like, "Oh my God, mom, you won't believe what just happened." And then I'll tell her, and she's like, "Oh, funny, I remember something similar like that happening with you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, awesome." No, but it would totally be
Ironic.
listen to your mother and hold on to her and just never let her go and love her and just love yourself, and it's gonna be okay.
Oh, I love that. And it's so true. It's like because they seen through all your anxious clouding, you know, that whatever was clouding your judgment, they see right through that. And but you don't want to believe it because you're just like this strong-headed little girl that's like I
Independent
can
as
take care
fuck.
of me and whatever, right? So, yeah, and so they're
I
just
need
like,
you,
"Okay,
mom.
listen, you little fuck." Yeah, exactly. That was so great. Was there anything else that we didn't cover through the questions for your? I know, okay, obviously that's a silly question because we
Oh,
could probably take
totally.
another 5, 6 hours talking about that. But highlight, is there any other advice or tips or notes for anybody else listening that you want to take away from
Yeah,
your
trust
journey of
yourself.
anxiety?
Like literally lean into yourself, trust yourself wholeheartedly. Know that you have your own back. Know that it's going to be okay. And at the very end of the day, if you are the one thing that has, like, you're the one person who has your back, like, no one can take anything away from you. So start with yourself first. Definitely start with yourself first. Start building yourself up and then kind of start building the foundation outwards, but always with you and drink water. Holy fuck. Don't be a dried up prune. Like, that doesn't help anybody.
That is so true. That's such a good. That's yeah. Stop being a cactus. It's not good
Oh,
for anybody around
no.
you. It's not good for your
Oh,
skin
God.
either. It just makes you look old. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Kayla. I love that. I love every single time we get together. It's just another, we're like onions, the two of us are just
Oh shit,
peeling
yeah,
off
and it's
layers
just
and layers
magical
and
every
layers.
time. So that's it for me, guys. We're
Yes.
gonna actually flip it back over and we're gonna ask Brandy the questions. All right, so now I'm going to ask you the questions. Let's talk about how you suffer from anxiety.
So the different ways that I've suffered from anxiety kind of have come and gone over time. I mean, it's looked different at different times in my life. When I was younger, I think it was more of like a separation anxiety because I was shared custody between like three couples. And I think this kind of bred like the need for me to have a stable home and to stay in one place forever. And so I just kind of like clung on to places and I still kind of do. Like if I move somewhere, I get this like weird separation, like, oh, I'm going to miss that bathroom or that yard. And then I just get like super depressed about a really small detail about a home. And I think that was just from like just yearning for that sense of, you know, grounding. So when I was younger, it was more like a separation anxiety. Where as I grew up, it turned into more of like a people pleasing anxiety where I was worried that I was always going to upset someone's and I never wanted anybody to be hurt by me. So I always panicked and I wanted to make sure I was saying things right. And I felt like I was always walking on eggshells. But you know, now I feel more empowered to just communicate my feelings as my self worth has kind of climbed over the years. I don't worry so much about people pleasing as I do about just like speaking the truth and getting through it as an adult and knowing that they're not going to leave me. And that could be like a thing from being a child of divorce or someone of divorce myself, just like worrying that if you do something, someone's going to leave. So it just stems that anxiety. And then, I mean, I have terrible driving anxiety. We'll dive more into that in another episode. But because of a lot of car accidents, my body just reacts right away to it. It's kind of it's not, I don't have control over it. It's more of a physical one. And then I learned what performance anxiety was when I started teaching fitness classes and doing performances and started doing photography around town. So I was just learning to overcome one set of anxiety skills or learning how to use that. And then I'd find something else. And, you know, I kind of laugh because it's like, you know, we both did the same thing. Like, where do we not have anxiety? You know, like you meet
Oh
new
yeah.
people, you're standing in front of a crowd, you go to the gym, even though I've been there forever, I'm still terrified. If any post on social media, if I have like a project presentation in front of anybody above me at work, you know, going to new places, I hate going to new places. Oh my God, I hate it.
Oh.
Um, you know, when you say you too to the waitress when she says enjoy your meal, just things like that. There's like a little anxiety hiding in my soul anywhere I go. But we've become friends over time. You just, as you age, you become friends with your anxiety.
Oh, for sure. Like I agree with that 100%. You don't, and I don't know if it ever really fully goes away more as you just get more comfortable with it and it controls you a lot less. Like it has less control over your brain, which is hard to believe because I mean, it's so funny like both of us. It's so funny to me. I'm just like we're so similar.
Yeah, I know, right?
The anxiety train is real.
It is, and it goes fast and heavy, and it can take you down really quickly.
Oh, like
And
hits you like a
like you said, it's over time you just kind of use those tools so you're not wasting hours on end stressing about it. You at least can cut that time in half and then cut that time in half, and now it's just kind of like a quicker redirection for certain things. But I mean, over time, or when you're in like certain situations where you're not feeling the greatest, or your environment's changed, or something bad's happening in your life, those tools seem to just like fall out of your toolbox, so you just forget how to do basic things, and
oh
then
yeah.
you start spiraling over and over. So I think it's super important to be set, like, I don't know, to be identifying if you're all out of sorts and your anxiety's spiraling. Well, that's probably why. Get back to your basics and
Yep.
then deal with the anxiety. Like,
One thing at a time, totally. No, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So with that then, how would you say that this makes you feel, like having anxiety? How does that make you feel?
It used to really make me feel like I was a crazy person. Like it really did. I didn't realize until I started talking to people that this was like common between other people, and it wasn't just my overreactive brain. And um, I found it was really exhausting a lot of the time because I didn't really know what it was, and so I was fighting against it, and I just wanted my brain to shut off. Which I guess meds did later on in life, but that came out as a cost, right? So
Hmm.
um, now I've now that so before it used to make me feel super a lunatic, exhausted, and angry, and now I find that I can't get rid of it, so I'm gonna have to work with it. So now I've kind of looked at it as more of something that's fascinating and intriguing, and I want to know more. The more I know about it, the more I learn about my unique self and my reactions to stuff, the more relief I have, and the less likely I go to this like survivor fight or flight mode. So I'm still annoyed with it. I'm still annoyed that this is the way my brain is working, but I don't feel doomed or I'm out of hope or a negative or bad thing. It's just facts, and there's tools and there's ways to get better. So you just have to find a way. So now I feel more empowered to be in control of it. And it's kind of like an amazing feeling when you don't feel so out of control with it, and you can identify it, call it out, work through it, and carry on with your life. So it's evolved over time, and now I'm trying to use it as power and fuel, and something for the better and not something negative. And it seems to be working for me for now.
I love that. It's like self-regulation. No, that's super good. And I mean, like
Yeah.
we talked about even with mine when we were going through mine and stuff like that, we were talking about how like medication was, we both got in the starting point. So it's like to be in a position both where we are now, where we're in control of our lives in that sense, that small little sense is like, it's quite enormous. Like people don't even really realize, you go from having this like crippling anxiety, like I feel like you would maybe have some similar situations, but like I've definitely been in positions where I want to do something and I've totally flaked on going or doing it because I had such bad anxiety.
Totally,
And then I just,
100%.
yeah, like you just kind of like make an excuse for yourself or whatever. And like you never really address it. And it's just like that makes your anxiety fucking worse. And then you worry about that for weeks. And then it's just like one thing after the other. And it's just
Yeah.
rough.
And I used to do that a lot. And then I kind of found a trick, a way around that for myself. I don't know if this will work for other people. And obviously, I have days now where I have to identify, like, are you not wanting to go because you're actually tired and you need a mental health day? Because that's a real thing. Or are you just scared for some stupid reason? And then, so what I tried to do is like things that scare me, or I try to commit to somebody else in that. For example, like I'm not a fan of paintball gunning at all. Like I'm not a thrill seeker in that sense. Those things fucking hurt. It's not fun. But I always wanted to just try it just to say that I tried it. But my anxiety was like, wow, I don't want to get fucking shot. Like this isn't something I want. So someone was doing it for their birthday, and I thought, okay, well, what a way for me to. So I kind of like tested myself out. I was like, scared shitless the whole time, but I still went through with it and went through the experience because I had committed to my friend and her birthday and wanted to show up for her. So it was, for me, in all things, I find sometimes it's easier to show up for somebody else. Like you guys can show up for your kids better, or like I feel like I show up for my spouse better sometimes than myself. So if you make that commitment to someone that's above your mental illness, above your anxiety, where that's super important to them, for me, I focus on, okay, well, I have to show up for them, and that's more important, and not letting someone down is more important than the anxiety that I'm going to go through anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I show up, I'm going to have it, and if I don't show up, I'm going to have it. So I might as well, for good reason. Like, obviously, if you're having a shit day, no.
Totally.
But, you know, if it's just really your made up, like, scaredness that something bad is going to happen when you know logistically and realistically it's not going to, like, it's a very small percentage, you know, then you're like, okay, well, now I've committed to this person and I need to show up, and I can show up for someone else way better than I can show up for myself until I can start being better at showing up for myself.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's really solid. It's a super interesting way to like look at it too. Like I never really thought about it like that. As like mine was always like, so it was just like I would let it consume me, honestly. Like, and I had no idea. Like I was like, why am I like this? You know, like why? Then I'd have anxiety about that. And it's like, fuck, you just can't win. So
And then you can
yeah.
kind of see that thought pattern for drug addicts, right?
frick.
Where, you know, then they feel guilty and then they fall back into it. It's the same circle, and you have to kind of like stop yourself from spiraling.
Yeah, 100% you do. It's other, and it's that easy for it to get really out of control. So, with that, we're going to roll on to the next one. This one kind of, we go up a bit. So have you ever suffered from a panic attack, or do you suffer from like panic attacks on the reg?
I don't suffer from them regularly, but I have had them. And I think for me, because my mom got to identify at such a young age that she had anxiety, and then we had it. So she was able to kind of help us call that out at a younger age, that, you know, in my teenage years, when the only panic attacks I really have is from driving. So that didn't spur until like my teenage years from driving. So by that time, I kind of was able to like identify that that's what was happening is from my accidents. I was kind of, you know, panicking, and I needed to control my breathing. But that being said, when I moved first to Kelowna, and I had to drive out onto the highway in the snow and the rain, when I'd been living in Alberta for the last 10 years, it's very flat. Yeah, it's snow, but different. Like, you know,
so
it's just total different. And there's lakes, and there's people driving at 100. I didn't have to drive on a highway in Alberta. And here there's no lights on the highway. And coming home one night, I literally had to pull over the side of the road because my whole body shut down. I couldn't breathe. I was freaking the fuck out hard. I had to call Grant. I was like, I can't even move off the highway. I can't see. I felt like my vision was just blurred. It was the most fucked up thing. And I just think I could have got to that in the past had I not known the tools that I did back then, to kind of being like, I know that this is from driving and I'm okay, and it's from my accident.
Oh, for sure. No, like that's
right.
PTSD with driving, man, that is so real. It's like there's nothing quite like that level. Like having anxiety is one thing, but it's like when you have it to the panic attack level, or like from, you know, like driving, I feel like I know exactly what you mean. Like it's like a little ball in your stomach, and it feels like it's just like consuming your entire insides, coming up through it's just fucked. It's so fucked.
Yeah. And then all I can do all at that time, where I'm like, I can't just rewire my brain, because all it's thinking is like, you're going to crash, you're going to kill someone, you shouldn't be driving right now if you're this scared, which, you know, that's fair. Like I shouldn't be, but it's not always, right? So, but I'm always like, how am I going to get better at this if I don't just keep trying, right? I can't have someone drive me to work my whole fucking life. So,
exactly.
You know, I've gone to the point where I hyperventilate a lot. I say that would be the level that with mine I can get to, luckily, but I think if my mom didn't address these things at a younger age, I definitely feel like I'd be prone to having that more physical reaction. Whereas now it's more of a mental and a like gut feeling nauseous, more than like a shut down completely, which I feel very grateful for. And I really empathize with those that have that physical reaction every single time and, you know, can't back it back down, because it's like debilitating, and you don't want to stop living your fucking life either. Right? Like people are like, oh, then don't drive. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
So what am I supposed to do? Like I relate to that so much. Cause like, after I'd never been in a crazy one, and even like mine, I in my own brain, because I didn't get like, I don't know, I don't think it for the whole time I basically played it down. My therapist called me on it one time and I was just like, well, I'm fine though. Like I'm actually like, for the I
Yeah.
broke nothing and nothing was fucked up. Like it was crazy how that happened like that, and to be upside down. And so the whole thing is intense. It's so intense, and like I'm just like, when am I ever gonna like not be scared? And I never used to be scared driving. I'm a very good driver, and it was just like that
Mhm.
split second I was like completely unaware of any of it. And it just now that feeling, it's always the worst and it's just certain things, people coming up to me really fast or moving forward when I'm driving by, I freak right out. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, me too. And then you're like, whoa, okay, calm down. And so like I've been able to in this last year to not have a panic attack driving out
Oh,
there this
thank
winter
you. That's
and drove
awesome.
myself. Yeah, and drove myself the entire time. Last winter, I had an amazing angel. Hillary, if you're listening, you saved me last winter, and she wasn't there this winter. So I had to buck up and be an adult, which was good. We had a really mild winter, so it was perfect time. So, yeah, I was able to kind of work through it. And I still have my moments when it's foggy and it's super dark and I can't see, and you've got semis flipping around you, but I just slow down and I just pull out the tools that I know, and it's getting easier and easier every time. I'm not saying it's perfect and I have my days, but it's not to the point where, I have to pull over this side of the road and, essentially throw
Oh,
up or check my pants because I've definitely shat
right.
myself.
Okay. So, oh my God, I love that.
Let's end it on there.
At what age did you realize that this is an issue for you?
So I think all of us can kind of agree that if at the time, I don't think we knew really what the fuck was going on, but I know at a young age, I was always told that I was a worrywart. And looking back at the behaviors of like, when I'm 5 or 6 and we're out rollerblading and I want to put up the cones because I want them to be perfect and I want to make sure I get good grades so no one's upset and no one has a reason to be upset with me and everything can be kosher and nothing's gonna upset the balance of like my delicate life, because it was delicate at that time. I had 3 sets of adults. I had my mom and my stepdad raising me, and I had my real dad and his wife, and then I also had my grandparents. So and they all very differed in what they thought. So it was like I'd go to a different house every week, and there was a different set of rules and a different
Oh
set of
yeah,
things. So
that's
it's just like,
fucked.
it would just made me feel
It's hard to
very,
keep up with.
nervous. It was very hard to keep up with, and it wasn't bad. There was so much love, and no one
Totally.
was like terrible, but it was just as a kid, just trying to keep remembering like where could I get away with certain things and where couldn't I, and where can I push buttons, and you got a certain level of attention at certain places, and it was just like it was kind of a wild time. So I would say probably like at an early age, like 5 or 6, that I would be very worried about things, but I don't think I would identify that till I was about teenagers, until my mom started seeing that for herself and noticing that we as her children were picking up these habits, or maybe we genetically got them, however, but she immediately tried to stop that pattern. So early on in my teens, we started working on it, even though I was just like at that point like fuck you, like you're not going to tell me
Oh, I
anything
know that.
about me, that
Oh,
age, right? So and then by the time it was like, okay, I'd done stuff later in my life that made it very safe for me not to be in anxious situations. But then when I started coming into situations that I had no choice and I had to face it, then it was like, okay, mom, like we said, you're right, like help me through this. And once I learned that I couldn't escape it, it doesn't go away by medication, by ignoring it, and it's just easier to accept it and fall into it. Definitely. So, a long story short, when I was, I think the separation and just the dynamic of my childhood bred that at an early age. And then just having parents and family members have the same thing, not know it, and then me just absorb that as a habit as well as being worry warts.
totally. No, that makes like complete sense. And it's interesting too. Like, I never even thought of it because, I have a son and I'm not with the father. So, but we actually have such a like kosher, like we're actually very civil between the two households. And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy to hear you say that, like raised by 3 sets of people, which, everyone is amazing and everything, but that doesn't change the way that it would affect your mind as a child to have 3 separate sets of adults with totally separate personalities. So you're
Yeah, and
in.
if you're a people pleaser,
Yeah, so I that's crazy to me. So like I see it in my own son too, like, and that's why we're already, this talking about it on this show and doing the show and getting it out there, and like, we just don't want the stigma. Like their anxiety can come in the craziest, like you wouldn't even know, and it's just there. Like, so it's just
yeah,
catching it early enough, like, and that's what this is about. Like that's why this is so magical between us right
yeah.
now. This is amazing.
I know. It feels so good. I love it.
What would you say? What do you feel triggers your anxiety for you?
So, I mean, there's always going to be that every little day of always having that little buzz of it,
Hmm.
of just the basic things, but those are dealable,
Workable?
workable with. But with driving, it's almost impossible, especially because at a young age, I was I think I was like just 20 years old or just about 20 years old when I lost someone really close. And it was like every 2 years after that. And so it was just kind of like that, that there's consequences and people can die, but then when they do, you're like, holy fuck, like
It just
life
hits
is,
you.
it does. And when it's like, especially if it's like in different ways. So, one was with cancer. That's not, you can't stop that. And then two were terrible accidents that made me realize you can really lose your life at any minute and at a young age. And so any bit of anxiety I had, it just skyrocketed. And then I got deeper into partying to numb the constant worry. And then I didn't want anything to happen to me because I had seen what it had done to those around me, and I just didn't want it to happen to anybody else on my behalf. So I really made sure that I was very safe at all times so that I didn't have to put anybody through the loss that I had seen other people go through. So that is a huge
Hmm.
trigger for my anxiety when I do anything that's like thrill seeking, you know, um, any kind of thing like that, which I'm working on still. And like we talked about, when you like have that dream where you're falling and you feel it in your stomach and you wake up, you're like, and you have
I
that like
hate that
gut
feeling.
feeling. Yeah, it's like that adrenaline, and that's what I attach to adrenaline, and that's what my anxiety feels like at its pit. So it's like I don't like to chase that adrenaline feeling because it just relates to really bad anxiety. Like when I got the call that Cody had passed away, like I literally thought I was going to puke for 4 days straight, and it was just
Oof.
that adrenaline gut feeling, and I don't like that. So anytime I come through that, my body immediately like, no thank you, even though it's not death. It's like, oh, we're going to go do something fun. But what if, then it's like, oh, well, what if the zip line snaps and then you're that story and, it's close to Christmas. And then it's like, so things like that trigger. And then I would say confrontations where I like really have no self-esteem in. So a lot of the times I'm really strong, but I would say if it was like someone above me, an authoritarian, at work, and I had to go against them, I struggle a lot with that. That's where that gut thing kicks in, and I have to remind myself that like you're an adult, you can talk through this, be respectful, your voice is important, and da 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 da. So those would be my definite, like, my bigger triggers is driving or anything to do with like that could end in death, and then like confronting someone like above me. That's not my fave.
No, oh girl, I hear you. Like a confrontation for me is like my least favorite thing, and I'm just like, I can be really vicious, or I can just really shut down, and it's like I don't really want either. I'd like to be in the middle somewhere. That would be better for me.
Yeah, please.
um, right? Like frick. How would you say that this affects your life, like your day to day life?
So for the longest time before I was able to identify and work through my tools, it definitely affected my work, to the point where I had to go on medication because I just couldn't handle the heaviness that had been my life. I was just getting divorced. I was leaving a gym that was family to me. I had changed everything. I was living on my own, having to pay my own bill. No idea who I was or anything. So I had to admit for sure. And it just because I couldn't focus. And then after that, then it really affected my life. So it's like it affected my life to the point where I had to go on medication because it affected my work and my focus. And then it numbed me to not want to do any of my art or any my wanting to do fitness and being a part of that. And so it just kind of like it was a shitty balance. It was like my fuel got taken away. Like then I realized that I could use anxiety for the positive and use it as fuel as long as I just used my tools. So it affected me really negatively, and then I numbed it, and then I kind of came to terms with it and kind of worked with it to the point that now it's kind of like a positive thing. And as soon as it comes up, I realize that this is a trigger. This is a skill set that my body is telling me like something's up, something's not right. Like, and does this warrant a negative feeling? Is this a bad thing? Or are you just passionate? Are you excited? Are you whatever? And then, so negatively at first, but now I'm using it as a fuel and a positive thing because it's just way fucking easier and less exhausting.
Oh, totally. I like that. I like how you say that. That it's like not letting it affect you to the point that it debilitates you, instead reversing it and harnessing that energy and putting it out into something else. Like that's magical.
Yeah, thank you.
I like that.
Appreciate that.
Ah,
I love.
ah.
Yeah.
Would you say that you have any anxious moments throughout your life that you will always hold on to or can never forget?
Yeah, the call that we got saying our friend was passing away in my early 20s, that was one of the worst moments for sure. And I think you understand that kind of anxiety. It's just a whole nother level. Losing
Mm,
friends, or losing anyone for that matter. It's
death.
just so, in my life, it just so happens to be friends. And another really time like that are a little bit lighter is not lighter, but I got my car repossessed just before I moved to Alberta, and having that moment of like completely being stranded without a vehicle, and that like the plan that I had just slipped away from me. And it was just a very like pivotal moment in my life, and it's that one I remember. And then teaching my first dance class in front of everyone at a school, I thought it was the pre-workout, but now it's like a mix of pre-workout and nerves, and I literally wanted to throw up. And I look back at pictures and I could see the like I want to puke on my face. And
Oh,
it's really funny. I just so there's some key moments that are like really bad ones, and then there's just really funny ones, and I'm like, yeah, that was awkward.
awesome,
but
right? Like,
but you
thanks,
have to laugh
body.
at them, right? Or you have to appreciate how far you've come in your journey with it.
100%. You have to. Otherwise, it's like, I feel like it's not like a teachable moment if you don't take anything away from it. And like, yeah, that's awesome that we're in that layout there. Just give
I
me,
agree.
I flipped my, there we go. Oh, no, we're not quite. We got one more, and then we're going to
Yeah.
flip it and go into like how we have succeeded throughout having anxiety in our lives. So I'm excited about this.
Yes. I know. I love the format.
Is this something that you face alone, or do you have anyone in your life that you can talk to about your anxiety, or like helps you cope with it?
So I kind of worded this being like, I luckily and unfortunately have a lot of people in my life that I can talk to about this. So not until we were all aware closer to my teenage years, but I luckily, my family and my mom especially also have anxiety and understand it. But I also don't think that that's a great thing. I don't wish that upon them. So it's kind of like an unfortunate thing that we all have it. But it's nice in the fact that we don't feel alone. So later in life, around the teenagers, I knew I could talk about it, but I think at that time you just didn't know how to communicate as a preteen. You had so many hormones, and you're like, they're not here for me. And I had just had siblings, and it was just a really weird time. So I definitely feel like they were there, and I wish I would have taken advantage of it. I just was kind of like on my high horse, like, I don't need
Oh, heck
anybody's
yeah.
help. And then I didn't want to sound like I was crazy too, right? So, but as time went on and we grew and mental illness was more talked about, me and my mom got closer. Then it was just like mid 20s, I was completely supported it. And now there is, without a doubt, everyone around me is super supportive. And even though, like, for example, Grant doesn't deal with that like as an illness, like of course he'll get anxious through and like situational things, and he won't have an answer, but he just sits there and is like, I'm sorry that I can't relate to you, but I support you, and how can I help? And he's just like there, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's all you need. You don't need someone to fix
Fix
everything.
it.
You
No.
literally just need someone to listen, right?
To
So
understand that you're going through it when you're going through it. I get that for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, so definitely than ever, and I'm excited to support our journeys as well through this community.
Yeah, me too. I think this is great. Like it's a great thing to be able to come out and talk about it. Like I think a lot of people literally go through the same thing where they're just like they feel crazy for their thoughts or their like insecurities that lead them down the spiraling paths, and it's like, no, you're not crazy. There's nothing really wrong.
No.
Like you might just have anxiety and you might just need to like call it out whenever you're feeling triggered and like what is this for me, and break it down
Yeah,
that way.
totally. Totally. That's the best
Yeah,
part about being unique.
it freaking is. Successes. This is exciting. So we've talked about the heavy. We're going to kind of go the other direction now. I'm going to ask Randy how she has been successful in her life living with anxiety. So, what do you use or have you used for your anxiety throughout your life?
So, I'm kind of gonna combine all the next three
Oh yeah,
questions
we got
into
right.
one,
One, two.
right? No,
Okay,
just sorry. That's
perfect.
just my because I've realized my answer is all the same. So
Yeah.
currently, I use besides like tools to help with the mental side of it. I currently use CBD and THC pills. I don't use it every single day because it's just not something that I'm financially investing in at the moment, but I will be because I really do believe in it and I'm really excited for one day when your benefits will cover it. But you can also write it off for taxes, so I'll be looking into that this year for sure. But as previously stated, I did use medication and I do believe if you need it for a time or you're a person that absolutely needs it, I 100% agree that's what you should be doing. But I also agree with people trying certain alternatives that work best for them. And this just so happened to work best for me for what I wanted in life and how my body personally reacted to medication. So I feel like it was really great and I'm really grateful for it. But I'm glad that I can use alternatives and natural things such as CBD, THC, even just like cannabis when you don't abuse it, because there's definitely a line where you can. And then I also really find it useful to have people around me that are going through the same thing, that are working on being honest with their journeys because it's healing me, and also having those hype people that are around you that are constantly going to hype you up when you're just a little bit confused about yourself or you need clarity or you're just having a moment where you're just like, please reassure me. Those hype people are going to get you through the day. And if you guys don't have them, you know where to find me and Kayla. We will always be your hype people
Hi.
because this type of like brain fuckery is next level and you can't sometimes deal with it on your own at
No, and
all.
you shouldn't.
So,
Jeez, like never
no,
ever
you
ever
shouldn't.
think that you have to deal with that on your own. And like there's times even where I'll have like mad anxiety and I'll be like, "Okay, I need to talk to someone." And generally like a lot of the time there's the like specific things and it's been you that I'll call because I'm like I know she knows what this is like, so I know that she has her side of this and she will also listen and hear me and help like hold a space for me while I'm having an anxious freak out and it's
Yeah. And
helped. So it's like yeah,
yeah, and it's the same way, you know, like just, hey, I'm freaking out, just remind me of this. And it's just having those people to help you. So then that would be one of my most useful tools that I find is working on focusing on well, I really try to focus on brain is going with this. How am I breathing? Slow your breathing down. Tell yourself it's okay. You know, maybe one time you got an accident, but the 17,000 the road, you're okay, you know, and literally just reminding yourself that history is history and it's not fact every single time, and just working single time, as annoying as it is, to break that pattern of being like, oh, you get in a car, you're on the highway, you're going to get in an accident. No, that's a possibility. But if you just focus on your shit, you'll be fine. So it's like, you
yeah.
know, finding your hype people, helping you rework those patterns at the same time. And if you need that medication to bandage to boost while you work on shit, totally. If you want that natural alternative, look in and work through with CBD with your doctor and THC till you find on both avenues what works for you. And that's what I did. So that would be like one of the best tools that I have is working on reworking that brain pattern, telling myself to stay calm and assessing kind of where I'm at and like taking a second to assess my situation because I physically feel like I'm in a better place.
Which is awesome. They go hand
Yeah,
in hand so well together.
totally.
Sorry, my eye, I'm just like scratching it. Well, with that, no, that's like terrible. Just
No,
scratching my eye, you guys. Like, whatever. Just
don't
pass
mind
that
me.
over.
This see, and people ask like, "Oh, are we going to see videos?" It's like, no, because I like to just be able to jump on and look like a swamp troll and do things
Oh,
like pick
yeah.
my nose and like pull at my hair without you guys seeing it right now. So videos to come once we learn how to be proper adults.
Yeah, and like appropriate in front of a camera.
Exactly. Like we're not there yet. We're barely appropriate in front of a fucking microphone.
Yeah, I'm a caveman, so it's fine. Do you have any influencers in your life that you would like to share, either like personally that you know or social media?
So my personal one that I will share with the world, and all my friends get to know her, and she's very great at this, would obviously be my mother, which she can't share her work with the world, but she's always made it very safe for me to share my feelings, and she's always listened and honored that. So I think that's super important for you to have someone in your life, whether that be your spouse, your best friend, someone in your family, that's going to honor and hold that space for you, or a friend. So definitely one of those. But as for like an online influencer, there's a fellow named Maston Kipp, and he's really great at breaking down like scientifically and in kind of layman's terms how, and he talks about how your body is, everything that it's doing is a reaction. It's not necessarily that you're in an illness, it's that your body's reacting to a constant stress somewhere else. So to address the root problem, go to it, figure it out, and then you'll start healing in other ways. And I really respect that. So we'll tag him in this episode. But yeah, he's definitely my favorite person to go to on an online influencer space for that.
I like that. I remembered from the conversation, like our pregame or whatever, we talk about, his name came up, and I forgot to follow him. I'm going to have to get you to send that to me, because I'm highly interested in that.
I love him.
Well, we're just about there. This is a good one. If you could go back and tell yourself some advice from when you first realized you had anxiety, what would you say to yourself?
So I definitely tell myself that I'm not alone, and to start talking about it, because chances are there are people around you tripping balls about the same shit. And it's just, you'll heal faster and you'll be able to accept it faster once you share your story and experience. And we know that from the show. So go back. You aren't alone. Talk to your friends about it. Your peers are going to be going through the same thing, and you'll never fucking be able to please everyone. So do your best at being confident who you are and have the hard conversations, because you're going to have anxiety regardless. So go through the hard times. You'll be fine. You'll make it through, and you'll be a better person and more empathetic person when you go through that hard shit.
Totally. Like, it just, and that's the most beautiful thing ever, when you can have something like that experienced in your life and not let it harden you, and you can still love and be compassionate. And that's like, it's magical. I really find that super magical.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Well, thank you very much for asking and flipping it around. I think we are about done today and for this episode. I am so excited every time we get on here. It just gets better, and I cannot wait to share the interviews that we have with our fam in the community about theirs with anxiety, because it's not beautiful that everyone goes through this, but it's beautiful that we're connecting through these experiences and everyone's starting to heal slowly, more and more as we go.
Yes, the coming together of the community is really amazing. I really appreciate this experience, and I love the flipping the script and getting to ask you the questions and hear your answers on things. It's quite brilliant, the conversations we have. So yeah,
I love it. I love it. So the next episode we bring to you guys, we're going to have a couple more interviews about others on their anxiety, and then we're going to jump into a new topic that Kayla's going to lead, and I'll let her tell you guys what the next episode is, and I'll let her sign us off for today.
All right. So our next show, you guys, we're going to dive in, talk about depression. It's something that I have quite a bit of experience with that I never really knew until later in life. So I think it's a really important thing to touch base on. And yeah, we're going to have some guests, and it's going to be really awesome. And we really look forward to having you guys listen and be a part of this. Thank you guys for listening and supporting us. And yeah, I think that's it.
See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for stopping by today. We appreciate you so much. If you like this episode and you want to hear more or be updated with episode drops, please make sure to send us some love on our Instagram page, the Be Real Babe Podcast. Give us a follow and stay tuned for more realness coming to you next week. Until next time, babes.